Testing, testing. One, one, two. Testing. What, one, one, two. Alan, what you got?
So you can do crazy little beatboxes and stuff, and all I'll say is all I can do is like boots and cats.
Boots and cats are the foundation of all good mouthery. So
Right,
that's not a bad start, Alan. Boots
right.
and cats. That's funny.
Good to know. Good to
Oh
know.
man. Oh, welcome to Smavcast. This is episode 50 something. And this is a commentary for, well, I guess by the time you're hearing this, it will have been a few weeks past. But this is the USA Light Fencing Activation Workshop that we are going to commentate tonight. As you can hear, I'm joined tonight by Master Venable, and this is your main man, Fode. And this is in collaboration with Darth Anonymous from Terra Prime Light Armory, who is the I don't even know what you would say, like, because USA Light Fencing and Terra Prime are related, but what's the word I'm looking for? Separate, but I don't know. Related but separate. I don't know how you would say it, because Darth Anonymous and his students basically developed this rule set in this official format and everything, but it's not specific to Terra Prime per se, right? You
Right.
can use any Saber martial arts style that you're familiar with or that you come from, and so anyway, you've probably heard on the show before, because by now we have at least one or two of the light fencing episodes we recorded while we were out there in Michigan.
hmm
So we have a playlist tonight. We have two playlists on YouTube right now that are rocking, that Alan made up. He did some supercuts of our fights up there. And it's not just ours. It's everybody who was up there, all the fights from Darth Anonymous' students and other school heads and things. And, of course, Alan and myself, who have the privilege, the very, very, very I would definitely say privilege, and honor of being among the very first accredited coaches and judges and combatants, or certified is maybe the correct terminology, for official USA Light Fencing, which is part of the International Fencing Federation, right? Is that how you say it? Alan, go ahead and sand the
Something like
edges of
that.
my description a little bit.
The USA Light Fencing is in association with USA Fencing,
Correct.
which has the biggest, uh, I guess the best word for it is the largest fencing organization in North America.
Yeah, yeah.
So um,
Well, and correct me
when
if I'm wrong, but is that the only way you can compete in the Olympics as a fencer is through USA Fencing, or am I incorrect about that?
I believe it's a separate organization.
Okay, okay,
USA Fencing is its own federation,
okay.
but a lot of people qualify for the Olympics through USA Fencing.
Yes, okay. So, like I said, sanding the edges for me. Thank you. That is
Yeah.
okay. Good. Okay. So, generally speaking, this is a way to try and get highly skilled and highly developed, highly specific in its rule set, but lightsaber fighting,
hmm
to be accepted the world over,
Correct.
as an Olympic level sport. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean in the Olympics, but to be
hmm
recognized at an amateur level, at the highest level, and as something
Right.
that actually takes legitimate skill and athleticism and martial artistry to accomplish, just like any sport
Correct.
or art in the Olympics would be. And Olympics, I mean, the Olympics, right, is one thing, but then they have all kinds of other Olympic type events and organizations and things, and so the real goal would be to just take the USA onto the world stage with lightsabers and to whoop ass the world over. Sorry, world. We love you, and we love our, as you know, our listeners in Germany and New Zealand and all these places. But we're trying to whoop your ass in light fencing. That's the way it is, right, Alan? I mean, and we're trying to get our asses whooped a little too, right? Like we're trying to make this thing something that every country, because in order to actually be an official Olympic sport, something like 70 something countries need to practice your sport at an official amateur capacity. So that is, yeah, I mean, this is the very, 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 very lightest of scratches on the stone that we have to chip away at. But here it is. And so this playlist is available. We will link it, obviously, in the show description. And each of these fights is about 3 minutes long. We may or may not kind of like go over the rules specifically. We'll probably overview them a little bit, right? But I think as we go, it's a little easier to grasp what the rules really are. But I don't know. Why don't we start out really kind of simply, Alan, maybe give us a quick overview of the rules, because you've seen all these videos. I was there for them, obviously, but I have not actually watched the videos yet. So I'm going in cold, and it's been a couple weeks since I've done it. So what are the general glossed over rules for light fencing versus just like a general saber martial arts saber tag?
Sure. First of all, I need to update what we said earlier. The Olympic Games do not have a minimum number of countries that must be involved to qualify, but athletes from 206 national Olympic committees and the IOC Refugee Olympic Team have to participate in the games.
Okay, and that's a different number too. So okay.
Yeah, so 206 athletes. Is that right? I don't know. It's hard to.
That's a hard thing to
actually get it.
Yeah, and you know what? Please, if somebody does understand it better, send us an email or something, or comment on this video or this show, and we will read your description on the show if it checks out as being more correct than what we're saying. So anyway, yeah, okay. So give us now what would be considered the official international rules for light fencing competition.
Okay, so in USA light fencing, from the beginning, you do have to have a gear check, just like we do. The most important pieces are the hard places, of course, the head, the collarbones, the cervical vertebrae, to cover the shoulders, the elbows, the knees, and the hands. Right?
Joints
that's the
and squishy stuff that's vital to your life.
Correct. And then, of course, a cup and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So
and
most of that
I'm sorry, Alan, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but we do detail the gear checks in a previous episode of the podcast that will have been released by the time you're hearing this. So check back a couple episodes, because any of the episodes we did while we were up there or talking or driving or whatever, talking about this, will say USA light fencing somewhere in the title or description. So sorry.
Right, and I just looked it up again. I was correct in the fact that the Olympic Charter indicates that in order to be accepted, a sport must be widely practiced by men in at least 75 countries and on 4 continents.
That was the thing. Okay.
Yeah, so 4 continents, 75 countries. And by women in no fewer than 40 countries and on 3 continents.
That's the ticket. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
So you do have your equipment checks. In general.
Oh, also mid-grade blades.
Yes, and these are not the mid-grade blades that you might find on most saber manufacturer sites. Those are actually a lot lighter grade and break to pieces often. These blades were developed specifically for the style of martial arts that Terra Prime teaches, and they work really well. You guys have heard me in the past kind of crap on mid-grades and light grades a little bit, although I have used mid-grades for kata and just basic training. These mid-grades work really well. They're what are they, 3 millimeter wall, I think. 2 millimeter, I don't know. It's a millimeter measurement, not an inch measurement. I guess that has something to do with, I don't know what that has to do with, but I know that it's a millimeter measurement, and it's almost twice the thickness of what you would generally see a mid-grade blade listed at online, I believe.
Right.
It handles like a mid-grade blade, but it handles punishment a lot more like a heavy-grade blade.
Right.
So anyway, I like those blades. Of all the things about the gear that I had to adjust for, the blades were easiest for me to adjust to.
Right.
Anyway,
Right.
continue.
And so basically, when we start, the combatants are called to the arena. They have to actually agree. The combatants take the ready positions. The ref has specific things that they say in order to make sure everybody's in place. You need a scorekeeper. You need a
Timekeeper.
a timer, a timekeeper, and then you also have 2 side judges and a head referee.
And
right? So,
logistically speaking, if this were an official event, it might be a good idea to have something like a videographer.
right.
We did that job and judged and refereed and fought and time kept and score kept, and it just for any tournament setting, it helps to have one person doing one job at a time.
Right.
Anyway, continue.
If you're actually just practicing it though, yeah, it's very much
you can toss the jobs around
easy.
And
yeah.
But I would say you need one referee. You need 2 side judges. By the way, the referee is just the head judge. Same thing, different terminology. So you need a referee. Right. You need side judges, and you need. I would say you definitely need a timekeeper. The timekeeper could probably double up on score because they only have to stop time when there's like a serious stoppage, like a breakage or something along those lines. Correct. So.
Correct.
Yeah, in practice, I would say the most critical roles you would need 3 to 4 people minimum. Yeah, in a tournament setting, you would need more like 6 to 7 probably, just to make sure all your bases were covered and you had an extra. So anyway, so you have these official positions. I believe that when the fighters come in, the referee asks if they're ready. They have to confirm that they are in fact ready. And here's the thing. I really like this because this is true in official MMA and boxing as well. Once you tell that ref you're ready, you're ready. Like, you can't backpedal on that. And if you do, like, they're calling it off, you lose. Because once you tell them you're ready, the fight is basically all but on. The only thing they haven't said yet is fight. Right? So they ask if you're ready. You tell them you're ready. If you're not ready, I think you get like a 90-second grace period to get your ass ready, right? And then you have to be, whether it be equipment or clothing, or you just, you need a quick sip of water, whatever the case is, you got to get there quickly. And then you have to bow to the referee. You have to bow or salute, whatever your, nod, whatever. Raise your saber to the judges, then to your opponent finally, which I kind of like that the opponent is the last one. It could be any order, but that seems appropriate to me, right? And then you are called to guard or on guard, and then at that point, the referee could say fight at any time, and time will start. 3-minute matches, right? And refresh me on scoring.
So, in order to score, you have to have priority.
Right.
And priority is defined in 2 ways. One is engagement arming, which is the hands, the weapon, and the tip of the weapon have to go behind you.
When you say the weapon, we're saying the whole kit and caboodle. The pummel as well has to come behind your central axis.
Yeah. It has to be behind your ears, at least.
Yes, behind your ears is the best way to think of it.
Yeah. And then simple arming is with just the tip going behind your ear. Mm-hmm. But the very first motion to have first priority has to be a large movement.
Yes, and you
Has
don't
to.
like I'm going to go now. You don't like say anything, but
Hmm.
it has to be kind of accepted by both that once one person's body starts moving, the other person is not really going to cut them off. However, you can
Right.
kind of cut them off if they do a motion where you can do a full engagement arm before they can complete it, right?
Correct.
So that's kind of something that may come up from. It's not a huge deal, but you may see where it looks like people are hitting each other at roughly the same time, and one person gets a point, but the other one doesn't. A lot of times that's because it's an engagement action, and the one person who started the arming action was just a little slower to complete it. The other person was able to complete their action first. They get the points.
Correct.
So then simple arming, you basically, the way I kind of think of it is like fly fishing, where
Sure.
like you kind of have to keep the tip of the rod moving, right? And I'm not a fly fisherman. I don't actually know how to do it, but generally speaking, it looks a lot like moving the tip, right? So you have to kind of like,
Sure.
you have to fly fish a little bit, but you're allowed to use
Right.
real martial arts strikes and parries in between. And as a matter of fact, it's highly encouraged to look as martially technical as you can. So,
Absolutely.
okay, priority, you arm, you get priority. How does priority switch?
So priority switches when the blades interact. So a parry or a block
Right.
stops priority. So if you are striking
Or
to
avoid.
where,
So if you were to dodge,
right,
would also
right,
keep the action rolling, but would count as a defensive maneuver.
right. Well, let's continue this first without talking about the void because that's a whole different idea.
Uh-oh.
So
Oh, I
when
didn't.
the
Okay,
blades
yeah.
touch, when the blades touch, priority ends. So a parry or block works. Now, if you swing your strike through and the parry or through the block, you might be called for a technical offense. So that's hitting too hard because the idea is, bless you.
Thank you.
So the idea is you should have enough control to know that you actually hit the blade and you don't have priority anymore,
Yes.
so that you don't hit through the blade. So that's a whole thing.
Yeah, this is
Now,
not a power game. This is a
right,
finesse game.
yeah, this is about skill, not power, right? Now, when you actually void, not talking about that, if you dodge the blade, that's okay too. However, you cannot gain priority until after the tip of their weapon has crossed your body, which means that
Right.
even though somebody has priority and they didn't hit me, I still have to address that attack before I can arm
Right. Right.
and go for a point.
Now that
So
might just mean
very
that you let that blade continue its path all the way through, and then you arm and go. But yes, you do have to acknowledge that strike passed through the zone before you engage.
right,
Otherwise, you might get called for like interrupting or whatever the
right,
technicality might be. Can you
right.
thrust? No, you can't thrust, which I messed up on quite a bit. Yeah, but any
Well,
slashing type.
it's hard to arm with a thrust.
Well, and I think
So
yes, and safety wise, this game, while it actually slows the combat down a little bit, is actually a fast game.
yes,
So thrusting, especially, it gets a little bit of a rhythm, and thrusting can kind of throw that rhythm off, which is great for combat. But this is not necessarily combat. This is a sportified combat. This is a very specific game, and you do have to kind of keep that in mind a little bit as you're watching, because like you mentioned, when somebody hits a block too hard and somebody gets hit, we would generally say like, well, if your blade touches you, like that's it. But
yeah,
the purpose of the game is not that. It's not just to rack up points. It's to rack up points in
right,
a very specific manner by showing very specific
correct,
types of techniques. Now, it does
right,
open up the timing to incorporate things that wouldn't normally be advisable in an all-out saber match, like jumping techniques, spinning techniques, saber flourishing it can actually be, because while you have priority, you can almost do anything you want with the blade as long as you don't like attack, right? So you can flourish, you can bat their blade to the side as long as you aim and gain priority before you actually engage. So it's there's a lot of nuance, a lot more than I thought going into it. Okay, so let's say you've got your engaging action, right? Your engaging arm, and then you have a couple parry and riposte actions. Then, upon proper arming, somebody hits you in the head. How many points do they get?
Right. So, unlike most Saber games, and I'm starting to call all of them games now, because the rule sets are rule sets, and they're still all different games.
And we're trying to have fun. We are trying to have fun.
Yeah, and that's the thing is this is meant to be fun to watch and fun to participate in.
Well, even those hardcore cauliflower eared up judo and jiu-jitsu guys, they call themselves players. Jiu-jitsu player, judo player.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that's what it is.
Right. So first off, you win at 15 points, but the points that you score are based on where you hit. For hitting someone's hand, it's 1 point. Hitting somebody's limb, either leg, so the hand ends at the wrist. Right?
It starts at the emitter of the weapon, though, right? Because you could get 1 point for hitting somebody's hilt.
Correct.
Okay.
And so, as long as I believe it's past the, I believe it's called the deltoid, whatever the big part of your shoulder is. That's basically going to be your arm, and then basically from the crease of your leg. So if you move your leg, and that crease where your hip becomes your leg, and down is your leg. That's worth 3 points. And then everywhere else, that's your torso and your head, is worth 5 points. So there is that. Now,
variety is the spice of life. If you want to get points, you should try to mix up your targets a little bit.
Very important here is when a hit is scored, the side judge or the referee calls out hit, and then the referee's job is to say halt.
Yes.
After
this
a beat.
Is important.
So the time it takes for somebody to say hit, halt, that's how much time you have in order to allow for what's called a salvo, which means that whoever scored the hit has that much time to attack and hit a much higher value target.
Yes,
so if I hit you in the hand and somebody says hit, I have until the ref says halt to hit you in the head to score 5 points instead of 1. Right?
Now, my Sith came out a little bit when this rule was explained, and I don't think anybody caught that it was my Sith coming out a little bit. But I was looked at a little bit strangely, and that's okay. I've got thick skin. But I asked, is it okay if you hit somebody like in the torso to go ahead and salvo to the head? And I think maybe I was looked at strangely because it might be viewed as distasteful. But like I said, Sith, okay. So my thinking was just that it would be super cool to cut somebody at the waist and then turn around and cut their head. But, So the answer was yes, you can, but obviously you don't get to like stack points. I thought it would be kind of cool if you did. I thought it would be kind of cool if you could like rack up 10 points or something.
The maximum you can score is 5 during an engagement.
Yeah, so if you hit... I was having a little trouble understanding, and that's why I had asked that question, because in my head, if you hit them in the leg and then you salvo to the torso or the head, you got 8 points, not 5. But then it was explained, no, the higher value supersedes the lower value, it's not additive. It's it compensates for or whatever. So that made much more sense why it wouldn't matter to go for but when I asked this question, he did bring up that when Darth Anonymous brought up that when he and his probably his oldest student right now, his oldest standing student right now, Frank, were working on this rule set that they did a bunch of rounds where no matter what they struck, they would salvo just to train the instinct to do a salvo, which you and I both found ourselves on the south end of that salvo situation a few times.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a couple people who are really looking for it. Frank and Caleb both, when we watch these fights, Frank and Caleb both are hungry for that salvo strike. And who's the gentleman that we rode with in the car to the noodle store? Oh, come on. Kevin. He's also got a good eye for the salvos. So I think, if you were to train this rule set, even though those high-value targets don't stack, just to train the instinct of the salvo might be a good idea to keep going for, double targets. You score a headshot, just go for a torso shot anyway. You know what I mean? Just like to
right.
but maybe agree with your partner so that they don't think you're a total Richard,
Right.
Sorry to anybody named Richard if you don't know what I'm saying. Okay.
Right.
So you have these values, you have these targets. I don't know how much we need to talk about penalties because not really any were given. There were a couple warnings here and there for things that were really not like malicious. Equipment failures, that was a bit of an issue here and there. I don't know if that shows up in your videos.
Not the I believe the first day, no. This first set of fights did not have that, but the second set of fights do.
I will testify that it was not the equipment's fault. A couple people got into some. A couple of the Sabers may have been the equipment's fault, but that's not. I think a lot of the time, some of the people fighting got a little overzealous, we'll say, and just lost a little control of themselves. Nobody got hurt. Nobody was like mean or trying to like being a butthead, but there were a couple times where a blade would break here or there, and I would say the majority of warnings would be like, yo, it's getting a little intense out here. Just everybody needs to chill a little bit.
Right.
So, okay, are we missing anything?
Yep. So the rings.
Oh, yes.
The combat ring itself, or the engagement ring, is going to be the so you need 32 feet basically for the whole ring, but then from the center 8 meters in, right, is going to be about 26 feet. That's the combat ring. That's kind of where the judges can stand and try to get themselves in. And this is an actual ring, right? So this is not a squared circle. This is a circle.
Yeah.
While the engagement ring is actually 20 feet in diameter. So you have a lot of room,
yes,
right, to fight and do your thing. But the referee stands on one side. The two side judges basically triangulate from the referee's position, and then the combatants square off in the middle. And this is pretty much for the safety of everybody involved, and to make sure that if there is, a equipment malfunction or a piece of, your armor kit goes flying for whatever reason, that anybody spectating does not get hurt.
Yeah. That is an important thing that we left out. Now, in the video, you probably won't see the judges very often because they are to the left and right of the camera. And bless their hearts, they did their very best, probably a better job than I did most of the time, to stay out of the camera's view. But they are allowed to move to the left and right. I believe they're allowed to move around the circle to some degree to get like a good view angle. However, you are encouraged to kind of make a home in your third of the zone. So if you
and there is a halt called if somebody takes 1 foot outside the combat area.
Oh yes, correct. Yes. And so Yes, that is very similar to the way that you might see a lot of saber fighting. As far as just you have a ring, you have combatants, you have judges, blah blah blah. But in order to make things as official as possible and accepted on an international stage, you have to be meticulous and
Mm-hmm.
repeatable. And so that's kind of the idea. So
Right.
I don't know. I mean, are we ready to get watching?
Sure, just a couple of extra
Oh
things
man, I keep
here.
forgetting. This is good that you keep saying like more and more because I do forget it, and it should be meticulous. And so anyway, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So if you fall, you're considered to fall on three separate extremities, like one hand, one foot, and one knee. Your head, your back, or hips, whatever it is. Uh, that's considered a fall, and you have to return to your feet immediately. You cannot be scored upon there, but you also can't stay there, right? So if you, I don't know, slip or whatnot, there's a good faith to get up and then go. Usually, for safety reasons, there will be a halt called for that.
And the time would
Just
stop at
like
that
when,
point.
oh no, the time keeps going. Just a halt to reset. The time does keep
Okay.
going
Okay.
because you fell, for whatever reason, whether it's your fault or not.
Right.
If you
Right.
fall, that's the thing. If you run into each other, if you're too close to each other, it's body to body or corps à corps in French. So that it's a little bit. So you're getting too close, you're getting too aggressive. You have to separate and reset. So that's the thing. If you drop your saber or if you get disarmed, you should get a halt called. Basically, if you don't though, so basically if a combatant drops a weapon or is disarmed and the weapon hits the floor, the ref should say halt. However, if you drop your weapon and the opponent hits you before the halt, it does count as a hit.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of loosey goosey with the halts when people are disarmed. Um,
Right.
and I
Yeah,
think
it is really a referee
yes, yes,
call
yes, yes.
because basically, uh, for example, in one of the fights that we refed, we'll see it in a second playlist. That saber got some distance in the air.
Yeah, so that's
It
the
went up
thing.
really high.
Mm-hmm.
hmm
Yeah, yeah.
So, and that was the thing. So,
I
but like
go ahead.
any deliberate throwing of your saber or dropping it
Right.
does get a technical. But there was that
Well, I
uh,
talked to
thing
Chad
that.
just a little bit about like his discrepancy on when he would call a halt or whatever, and it
Mhm.
seemed a little bit like, and maybe I'm a little unclear on what he was saying, but it seemed a little bit like if it looked like kind of like an oopsie, but the saber
Mhm.
stayed within the fighting area, he would delay the
Mhm.
halt call to kind of see if somebody would score, gentlemanly like without being,
Right.
but
Correct.
if
It
that
it
saber
it
flew
is
out of
up
the
to
ring,
the
he would
referee.
halt it right away, for safety reasons,
Yeah.
so forth. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you again, but
Yes.
that was
Oh
something that
well, I
came
was
up
gonna
in the matches
say.
I was refereeing.
If your saber, if you get disarmed and you somehow catch your saber,
There you
you
go.
know
Yeah, yeah.
that's something that could happen. That didn't happen in the fight we were talking about, but if
That would
that
be a
was
feat with
something that
lacrosse
did
gloves
happen,
on or hockey gloves on. That would be a
yeah,
feat.
yeah. Or if it dropped near you and you quickly grabbed it, I don't think you'd call halt unless you already got hit.
Yeah,
So it is the determination is left up to the referee
yeah.
uh, of of any of that stuff. So there's a little uh, uh, discrepancy there. Um, Also, different types of movements are allowed. So spins, you talked about spins.
Yeah.
You can make a 360-degree turn, bringing your weapon in the same arc. You can arm as long as that weapon is in the arming motion, right? So if you lead with your weapon, you're technically not able to be scored upon until you make your attack, right?
Right.
Um, if you did a combat roll or a shoulder roll, and your weapon doesn't slam into the ground or into the opponent or their blade, it's considered an armed attack. So you could technically roll if you wanted one, as long as one foot's on the ground and your body's upright, so you can't just fall over.
Yeah.
um, and
Yeah.
then if you wanted to cartwheel, you could do a cartwheel as long as your weapon does not touch the ground. And after both feet are back on the ground, you can actually attack and
Yeah, and
score a point because it's
within
considered
that
armor.
motion, it has to cross between the two combatants. You're talking about your full weapon. So like, let's say you do a cartwheel as an engaging arm. You have to
Yeah.
not only bring everything behind your ear, but it has to have crossed between the two attackers before that happens. So you could do like a flourish in front of you, then you could cartwheel while arming, and then who the hell's cartwheeling? But you could, and that's the beautiful thing about it. And the other person would have to do a full engaging arm to even think about hitting you before you could attack them. So there's a lot there, but for the referee to keep track of like all this arming and did the weapon cross the plane, did it go between them, did it go behind the ear, and to do all that in like a very, very short amount of time, it takes your judging and refereeing skills and puts them on alert, so to speak.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right, and dodging and kneeling, a lot of stuff, to get out of the way, as long as you're
One-legged
not,
stances and hopping.
yeah. So there's a lot there. Switching grips or your hand.
Yes, yes.
So basically, you can switch your weapon, but you can't, for example, have one hand on the pommel and one hand up near the emitter, and then attack with just one hand holding the pommel.
It has to be up
Right.
by the emitter. If you do
Yeah,
one hand, it has to be by the
yeah.
emitter.
Correct. So a lot of the ideas, if you are fighting one-handed, you can't just switch quickly
Right.
to the other, right? You can choke up and switch your hands that way, but it's not like there's not a lot of leeway for
Right.
what we would call fishing.
Right.
At that from holding
Drives me insane anyway. I love
yeah.
I love that rule personally, that
Yeah.
you can't have to grab by the emitter. The other thing really quickly we should mention is, and we kind of implied it, but I don't think we specifically said it, is once somebody has armed, once they've completed the arming action correctly, they may not be interrupted. However, they must attack. They must engage. Right. So you can feint, but you can't rearm in the middle of the feint, which was interesting, and you can't do it as your primary attack. So if you do an engaging arming action, or whatever the term, engagement arming action, whatever, and you go towards the person, you have to continue that arc to the target. However, if they parry it, then they have priority. They attack, you parry. On your next attack, you could, as long as you've armed properly, one arming action, you can go towards one target and then in the same movement, that's very important, you can't stop the movement. In the same movement, just redirect to a new target. It's very interesting, and it helped me score quite a bit. I won't say most of the points, but a lot of the points where I felt like, ooh, I got that one, was when I used the feint tactics that actually Chad gave us that very morning. That was one of the first things we did that morning, was we tried to use feints and we tried to use spinning attacks. I love that because it made it so much more interesting, first of all, to just practice normal ass martial arts, but it it made me like it just I just had a lot of fun. I didn't win a lot of matches. This is a very new
Mm-hmm.
system for me. I just wanted to go out there and saber fight, and then I started to
Mm-hmm.
get into the game, and I really
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed being able to like spin and twirl my saber and bat theirs out of the way and like have fun with a flourish, and it just it took this like serious saber combat and just made it fun again,
Right.
to be able to use those like flashy techniques and things in a way that makes the game just fluid still. It doesn't
Right.
it doesn't take away from the martial arts. It gives you an opportunity to showcase them a little bit more.
Right.
So I think, I mean, anything else that comes up, we could probably address it as it comes up. These, like I said, these fights are less than 3 minutes each.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of them, like I won by time, I think, but maybe not on this playlist. But a couple of them, somebody won by time. But if there is a tie, maybe that's the. I don't know if there are any ties in these videos, but if there was a tie, I think you get one sudden death exchange. I don't
I don't believe that that is a rule.
I don't remember what you do in the instance of a tie.
Give
I
me a
think we
sec.
talked about it, but I don't remember.
Yeah, so in the very unlikely event there's a tie, I believe there is a one more engagement, but don't. I might be misremembering that.
That's something we should
Well,
clarify, and
yeah,
we don't take our word to the bank on that one yet. But
yeah,
that didn't come up, so
yeah.
at least not that I know.
The, it's very hard to do that, I believe, because you have 3 minutes, and and
It
the
happens
chances of
quickly.
action. Yeah, the 3 minutes goes by quick, and also, in order to get a tie in 3 minutes, you I don't know have to hit each other's hands a lot, maybe each other's legs a lot. But even then, if you hit somebody in the leg, that's 3 points.
I don't know if you
You have to do
can,
that 5 times in three
based on
minutes.
priority though. I guess yeah, you could have a tie. The only way it would happen would be time, I
Would be
guess.
time, yeah, correct.
So anyway, let's get into it. The very first match on this playlist is actually me and Alan. So you will see me with the red blade and Alan with the green blade. Just to let you
Hmm.
know, all of the refereeing done by Darth Anonymous. He scores his left hand first, then the right hand. Doesn't matter who's in the lead. That's the way he does it. So it'll actually be whoever on the right, their score first, then whoever on the left. However, I don't know if that matters for these videos, but we were just talking about semantics and things. So if anybody's confused at where pointing is going on or whatever, he always scores his left first, then his right. So I'm on the right with the red blade. Alan's on the left with the amazing armor and the green blade. And should we hit play in 3, 2, 1, go? We've
There we
got
go.
the USA light fencing logo. It's nifty, man. Makes me feel patriotic and nerdy all at once.
You're
So
welcome.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
uh, so we bow to the ref, to the judges. Oh, you have it listed down there. Very good. And we go on guard.
So
Here,
quick, quick spin, really easy. 3 points to the leg, right?
yep.
Trying to find that in, and that was what, 40 seconds in the fight?
Yeah, and like sometimes I felt a little like, oh man, this goes against so many instincts to like bring my
Hmm.
sword back and then attack,
Right?
right? But oh, that was a nice hit. Um, but just you have to suspend reality. I was a little worried, like, oh man, this is gonna like ruin my actual technique. But I think
Hmm.
that's kind of if you've trained long enough with good technique,
Hmm.
you'll be fine. You
Right.
know.
exactly.
Um, I didn't.
So go.
I thought I got my ass
Yeah,
whipped a lot harder than this.
no, no, you look you did fine. But that shows you also like objectively like planning to fight in a different way in a
Yes,
different rule set.
yes, yes.
We had to literally shut off certain parts of our brain,
You
right?
even more so than I, because most of the fighting I do is non-competitive. You
Hmm.
are fighting competitively a lot more often than I am with the
Hmm.
type of tag rule set that we're used to, where you can cut each other off. Short match, as you see, but part of that turning things on and off in your brain, in your body, that's healthy. As far as learning a
Hmm.
new, this is like learning a new style of an old martial art that we're already used to. So it's really
Correct.
fun. So who's this next match we've got? We're just gonna go right through the playlist without stopping unless we need to. So Mason and Kevin.
Hmm. Now these
Mason,
guys are locals.
yes, they take class with Anonymous in person,
Hmm.
and Mason with the blue blade, Kevin with the amber blade. Kevin built his hilt from custom Saber shop parts. It was
Hmm.
beautifully balanced. It is pretty short for a two-handed hilt, and he fights mostly one-handed. But I did get to, hold it a little bit, and I was impressed. I would love to design one similar. So he gave me permission to do so.
Yeah. So that was them getting too close, like
They're
core core.
bodying each other a little bit, yeah.
Hmm.
Now Mason has been training with steel longsword
Hmm.
for a little bit, so you can kind of understand his instinct to, and you can see it in his technique just there. Um,
Hmm.
you can kind of understand his instinct to body people a little bit, because with longsword
Hmm.
that is a thing.
Right.
Oh man, you can see
And
my ear over
there's a
there.
lot of
Sorry.
also moving with longsword to pierce is a
Yes.
big thing too. So he basically has to take what he knows of longsword
Yes.
and apply it in a different way. That's different. That's a whole different way of doing things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And to his credit, Kevin, uh, man, it's almost like watching a longsword versus a rapier, which is a wild contrast, right?
Hmm.
But Kevin's really got a stout defense.
Right.
Mason's got a lot of points right now, but that's not because Kevin's not doing well. That's because the game is set up that way,
Right.
which is fun. It keeps the score rolling. You can see Mason's really trying some of that longsword technique.
Hmm.
Now, what? Oh, yeah, the extra point. Sometimes that 1 point, like it seems a little bit disheartening that it's only 1 point, but actually, as a fighter, you get that 1 point after a couple rounds of getting hit. That 1 point can
Hmm.
really boost your morale a little bit.
Right.
Unfortunate for
Exactly.
Kevin, but I don't think it was a bad fight for him.
No, not at all.
That score can be misleading. It's like, oh, 15-6, but that's not just the way the game is. It's not because the one person sucks so bad that they didn't get an extra 9 points.
Right.
That 9 points could be two hits.
Right. Exactly.
That makes it fun too. Okay, we have Taylor and Frank here. Now, Taylor, we had the privilege of riding around with Taylor. He's from close to my stomping grounds in the Philadelphia area. And he
Hmm.
trains with, what's the other gentleman he trains with?
James.
James. Yes, who you
Hmm.
won't see in this video, but will see in the next playlist we commentate.
All right.
Now, Taylor is hot under the collar. He's a great kid, skilled saber artist. Definitely a little hot under the collar. And I don't think he means it maliciously. I think he's just getting the experience. Frank,
Absolutely.
loose as can be in the best way. He's like, and there's
Hmm.
another, is that a salvo? Yeah. Dude, Frank is so on with the salvos. Look at his posture. You can see the difference in experience level. Now Taylor's had a lot of martial arts experience, but you can just see the difference in experience level in this particular game, right? Frank is so
Correct.
used to this. He's so chill. Taylor is wanting, rightly so, to prove something to himself, I feel like, which is good.
Sure.
He's fighting well. It's a good thing. Frank is
Right.
on with those salvos, man, constant. He didn't get one there, but he's looking for him. He's looking for him.
Right. He's used to the game, yeah?
I like his stance too. It's similar to the way I stand, but a little more I don't know, a little more creepy crawly, maybe. That was a fast spin. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Taylor's game though. He does not let Frank freak him out.
Yeah.
Sometimes when somebody across from you is that calm and also skilled, it can rattle you. He doesn't seem rattled. He just seems intense, ready to go.
Right.
1 point away from winning though for Frank. That sucks for Taylor. It's again no knock on his fighting.
Right.
Damn. Swallowed a frog.
Try not to die.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when you watch Frank fight, it's he's very patient, but he's very fast at the same time, right? He goes down low and goes for the targets, and he doesn't actually have to do too much to win. In that case, he just swiped at his leg. He saw the opening, dodged out of the way, and hit the leg. So kudos on Frank to show you like he's been doing this a while. He makes it look easy.
Well, you need
And
that's good for Anonymous because every teacher needs I hate to say star student, but a what's the word? Senior student,
Right.
So, and here's Kayla versus me. Kayla with the blue blade. I'm obviously not the female in this situation. It's not that obvious in this situation.
Nor should it be.
Oh, that damn salvo. God. She's so good. She's young. She's been doing this a couple years, but she's not like a super experienced. But just look, she's got the moves, so to speak. She's got the. You can tell she pays attention when Anonymous is teaching.
Right.
And he's a good martial arts teacher because it shows in these people like Frank and Kayla and Kevin and Mason, right?
Right.
I don't even think I knew I got that point. I think I was shocked. I will say fighting. Oh man, that sucks. I thought I got that point.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure she now turns it around and mops the floor with me, but
A big spin here, and now she turns it on a little bit on you.
yeah.
But she does it with a salvo again, right? So
Oh, yes.
we're so used to stopping when we feel a hit. You
can parry the salvo. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That you and I never really caught on to. It wasn't so much that we weren't scoring with there it is. There's my saber tag instincts, right? Just cut somebody.
Yep.
Don't worry about priority. And you can see, I don't know if you can see, but she's kind of winding up on me a little bit. And I think we may have been warned a little, but I was just playing, just riding the thermometer, so to speak. No, she did excellent. I mean, she's really putting it on me, which is great. I love to see that. I was gonna say two-handed techniques, not that
Hmm.
easy. Oh, there's a double there. Oh, that sucks. There aren't as many doubles in this style of fighting as there are in the normal style we do. So
Correct.
that was a great round for her.
Hmm.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. I,
Yeah.
I remember getting 11 points, having more points than her, and going, "Oh, don't screw this up, Mark." And then that salvo happened, and life
Right.
just changed. So it's excellent. All right, who's up next? While that happens, I'm
This
gonna go
is
grab a little cup of water.
sure. This is Frank versus myself. So this is one of those things where his saber went out, and usually what happens is if you don't have your saber lit, you actually would forfeit because your weapon malfunctioned. You can't actually parry. And if your saber goes out in the middle of the action, whatever the opponent's saber was gonna hit, counts as the point. And once again, as soon as I got hit, I stopped and I forgot to keep my blade up to parry for the salvo. So a lot of this is basically uh, myself and Mark going for the game, trying to remember what we're actually
Yes,
doing
yes, yes.
and interpreting that. Um,
While
and
the people who are familiar with the game try and win.
yeah, basically. So in this case, right, I did okay.
Oh,
You
nice
know,
hit.
yeah.
That was
In,
beautiful.
in
And
this
you
case,
ended it like Batman. That was
so
excellent.
but but then Frank kind of brings it up a little bit. But you can tell we're both having fun. I have a big
Yeah.
smile
Oh
on
my
my
gosh,
face
dude.
in the middle of this, and we're both laughing and going, "Okay, yeah, that was good. You did good on that one."
Yeah, and that was the
So,
thing about when I said Kayla got a little intense and like
uh-huh,
we may have gotten warned or whatever, but like I could actually
yeah,
see through her fencing mask like the ear to ear grin. So like
yeah,
like I could tell in the moment she wasn't trying to hurt me.
yeah,
It was just there, man. Lightning.
yeah.
That was a fun
What
exchange.
an what a fun rally that was,
That
right?
was
So
so cool.
that was the experience that I was looking for. There was a lot of good stepping. There was good distance.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
was
yeah.
good parries back and forth, and it wasn't. In the end, it was like, man, that was awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
just a good amount of camaraderie
Yeah.
in that fight, even though it lasted 2 minutes. It was like that was pretty good. you know,
Yep.
this is me going up against Mason. Um, I'm doing a lot of just one-handed stuff here, just so I can get used to the thing. Also, my primary fighting style is one-handed, but I chose to do this like I'm not sure why, but I chose to do this kind of uh, Polish saber stance that's going. I'm not sure
Yeah, I
why.
see that with the
It kind
hand
of
sort of on the hip that way.
yeah. It just happened that way. It wasn't anything. We had a little bit of an equipment malfunction here. His shoulder pad fell off.
Mason being
Um,
long and string beanie like that, I feel like the
mhm.
two-handed techniques are working rather well for him. Um,
Right.
I seemed to have, I scored a couple times off two-handed techniques,
Hmm.
but I found that the defense was a lot more difficult for me in a two-handed style. So I just
Hmm.
stuck with the one-handed by necessity most of the time, but I really was
Sure.
trying to make it work a little more. Mason
Right.
Mason does make it work more, and I think his body frame lends to that a little bit because
Right.
well, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah.
His two long arms can move that saber a lot better around his
Correct.
body more quickly.
Correct.
However, um he also has a little extra power with that. And I noticed that in my match with him, he would go through a lot of my parries and things to the
Hmm.
point where we got called on it a little bit.
Hmm.
And he came up to me after saying, I'm sorry, dude. I was like, dude, it's fine. Like, you can see it right now. Like, he's just trying to practice the martial art that he's familiar with, right? Like, he's just
Oh
trying
yeah,
to
absolutely.
do what he knows. And I can't fault a guy for that, you know?
Right,
He's not malicious about it. He's a super nice kid. Oh my gosh.
right,
Super nice kid.
right. And this is me misunderstanding some some of the stuff
Some of the
because like
priority and stuff.
prior the priority and stuff, and Chad's trying to tell me like, hey, you gotta you gotta make sure you do a full engagement arming,
Yeah.
and to the point where I was like, okay, I really gotta make bigger movements with that
And
first
that's what
movement.
he was like, once you think you've done a big enough one, just do it a little bigger. Like
Yeah, yeah,
and I think some of that too, like just being, he had an immense amount of patience with us because they're
yeah,
used to doing this every Saturday. We're not.
right, yeah,
And the martial arts side, they don't need to explain, which is probably very convenient and makes things a lot simpler for them. But the
yeah,
game side, they needed to constantly re-explain, which is, I mean, that's why we were there, right? To
right,
immerse ourselves in it, and
correct.
man, it was fun. Now, one thing about, oh man, I think we just glossed over it just very briefly. Oh, the scoring as far as like targets and what was scored on and whatnot. The referee can override, like, let's say the judge or judges saw an arm strike, but the referee
Hmm.
calls a torso strike. The
Right,
referee can override the arm strike, and
right,
call a torso. They don't need to justify, but they may decide to justify. However, the interesting thing I liked was is that we're treating it like a lightsaber, right? So if it cuts the arm in such a way or such a trajectory where it would have cut through the torso were it a real lightsaber, you get the
right,
5 points, which was super cool to me because Nonimus seemed to
right.
have a really good eye for like something I would just call an arm strike. Like
Hmm.
it was high enough up or it was, enough force to where it wasn't hard, but it would have cut through the person's whole body. Uh, he was just very good about like sort of that lore immersion, if you will. So,
Right.
just being a Star Wars nerd, that was like cool for me because, yeah, I mean, like Obi-Wan gets his arm jabbed in Attack of the Clones, but for the most part, if a saber touches something, that something disappears, and then whatever's behind that disappears, and then whatever's behind that disappears, right? So,
Right.
um, yeah, he likes to treat things like lightsabers. I appreciate that about him and his
Yeah.
students and the way that his curriculum is based.
Correct. Yeah. So even watching this again, right? Uh, going Taylor's going for because he does long fist and
I
Shang
didn't even
Chuan.
realize that we
Um,
were not even saying this is Taylor and Kevin. Sorry, and we were already
yeah,
13 points in.
it's fine, but you'll see a lot more of these guys. But Taylor likes going for those cool, spinning, jumping techniques, and
He jumps a
you know
lot.
what?
Yep, he does.
Yeah, and you'll notice he'll do like some twisted stances and then jump up out of them and stuff like that. And he does a lot of level changes.
Yep, yep.
And you know what? It works for him.
Yes, it does.
That's his style,
Yeah.
and it's also that's something that we, at least I myself, have not seen in other uh, games in other rule sets.
It does allow you can take it seriously without taking
Hmm.
yourself too seriously in that regard. And
Hmm.
here's me and
Right.
Frank. I'm pretty sure Frank hands me my ass on a platter, but we'll find out here. So I'm on the left here, Frank's on the right. Um,
Hmm.
but I think I think with Taylor and just the jumping techniques and stuff in general, he also like it's kind of like he knew some man. that's I felt good about that exchange, and then I heard him say like a point against me, and I was like,
Salvo. Yeah,
it was I just got deflated, man. And there's another salvo. It's
yeah.
just anyway. Um, I think you can tell like okay, he learned a form or a kata or whatever, and now he's trying to do that thing from the kata in the fight.
Right,
That's something that like my teachers would always like. Man, I wish there was an easier way to teach that part of this whole art, you know?
right.
So for somebody to just kind of be athletic enough and have a spongy enough learning attitude to do that kind of stuff, you know, it's cool. Yeah, there's my saber
Absolutely.
tag instinct again. I just dropped it under his armpit
Yep,
thinking like, oh man, there's a quick point. Nope, not okay.
yep.
No priority.
Right.
And there he goes
And
again
then
with a
that
salvo.
part, and as soon as you spun and he parried, right, he armed came straight up. Like I said, patient but fast.
Yeah.
As soon as he parried, he was like, well, my sword's on its way over here already. It's already armed. So let me go ahead and hit it, which is a fun
Yeah.
idea to, especially in this game, to be like, oh yeah, that's right. This is a little bit more akin to a different style of fighting, rather than just like because a lot of people that haven't tried this and haven't done anything of this nature, uh, a lot of people will, just because of the nature of playing something different, might like overly criticize it, or without even trying it, without
Yeah.
even putting in any effort to okay, what if I do this, what if I do that, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So this was a very fun experience to be like, oh, okay, it's me that's not doing it right.
Yeah.
I'm not arming. I didn't have priority. I'm not doing the thing. But then when we actually attack and when we go, even though I may have gotten a hit in, it might not have been that correct amount of points that I thought it'd
Right.
be. It might not be that.
That was a
But
nice
the
point,
cool
Alan.
thing about
Sorry,
it,
that was a good point. Alan's
oh,
fighting
of
Kayla
course,
right now. That was a good point.
yeah.
Let's keep talking.
So in this case, like I hit her in the hand, but her hand was protecting her torso,
Right.
right? So for me in my head during this fight, I was like, oh, I hit her in the torso. That's 5 points. Nope, it was one. You hit her in the hand. I was
Yep.
like, oh, that makes sense. I was like, wait, you're right. Actually, I did hit her in the hand.
Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Let's keep going.
Well, and
And so
go ahead.
I was gonna say it's okay to keep going because there are no stakes,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And it's just let's go out there and have fun
Yes.
and do this. There's not there's a salvo again because I keep on forgetting to keep my guard up. And that's me laughing about it right there. So
Oh,
in time, yeah.
damn it, Kayla. Nice job.
Yeah. Uh, and like the deliberation of how to do certain things, and going through like, okay, what did you actually see? Lasted like half a second.
Yeah. Yep.
There was no, which is
Nobody
I'm
met
a
in the
big fan
middle
of
to
that.
talk about it. Oh yeah, it drives me
Yeah,
insane. And
yeah,
Anonymous had chatted with us briefly about how insane it drives him. So,
yeah.
it's nice to know we're all on the same page. And truth be told, you go to many traditional martial arts tournaments, you're not going to see that crap. The
Right,
deliberation takes milliseconds
correct.
because the referee or the head judge knows they have all the power. Everybody else knows they have all the power. And
Yeah.
as long as they don't abuse it, nobody has a problem with it.
And this is me not arming again.
Yeah. There's a reason the referee or head judge needs the best seat in the house.
Uh-huh.
And I would say that deliberation or lack of deliberation is one of the best reasons to give them the best seat
Yeah.
in the house. Because if one person can just break all the ties because they're right there, then you don't need to worry about it.
So I left this part in the video because Chad actually explains to us like there's a bunch of times where you actually did hit her, however you didn't arm.
properly,
So
right?
make it a bigger motion, and you would have gotten the point instead.
It was smart to keep
And
that in there.
yeah, it's very much one of those things. I was like, you know what, we're just going to keep that in the video because that's very important to remember.
Yeah, doesn't hurt an
Because
extra 8 seconds of your time, right?
yeah, yep.
That's good.
And this is you versus Kevin. Kevin, by the way, is the first national champion for USA light fencing.
Oh yeah,
He won
from
Capital
the
Clash.
Capitol Clash in Washington D.C.
Yeah, in January this year. So there's
Kevin was
you
a good
again.
guy.
Yeah, awesome guy, history teacher too.
Yep, and got
So
into any martial arts because of lightsabering. You see,
right,
like
exactly.
I'm just playing, man. Like I'm so excited to frickin' use spinning moves and shit. Like, oh,
Right,
I'm so stoked.
right.
Oh man, there's an editing task for me. 1 minute and 10 seconds,
Uh,
or 1 hour and 10 minutes. Oh, that's funny. Oh
right,
man.
and so very much big big movements, right? But here's the thing about watching these fights versus the other fights that we have, is this is entertaining to watch even if you don't exactly you're not even fighting, right? Because usually as fighters we entertain ourselves by hey, we're fighting, but somebody watching, spectating,
Oh, I can't
is
believe I
much
got that.
more.
Oh, he got
Yeah.
that. Crap. Oh, I thought I got that. Continue.
Is much more interesting because of the bigger movements, right? And the back and forth. And now you lost your saber, so and we're back, but not in time. You did turn your back for just a split second, and he didn't call halt yet. And that's him actually explaining to you, like, hey, yeah, you gotta watch it.
Yeah.
You gotta keep
That was
you gotta keep that up.
So there he is telling everybody the thing. Like,
Yeah.
your blade goes out, man. So sometimes in a tournament, like your blade might
Mm-hmm.
go out just in the middle of an exchange, but we
Mm-hmm.
will generally like just chalk it up to like whatever and keep going as if the blade was still ignited. We try to keep it ignited. But in this case, that blade goes out for any reason, it's as if it's not there. So you can parry with it, but it's not real, right? Like they can still strike you and get credit for that. So that, yeah, I am really just trying to have fun and play toys. And did I get credit for that? I can't tell. No, of course not. Of course not. It's a salvo. Of course I didn't get that. See, and there's those things I'm like I hit them quickly and I'm like, man, that was a great hit. But it's not priority. It's not armed. It's not. So, what can you do as a martial artist? I could get offended that my martial arts are not being accepted, or I could just laugh and play the game.
Right.
And I'm gonna laugh and play the game because look at me, I feel like freaking Dooku over here. I'm just having fun, man.
Yeah, and you're making big moves, which is the most entertaining part. I feel like we've played enough games of
minuscule
saber
movement.
tag.
Yeah,
that especially something like this is much more interesting to watch. Definitely, because now we know the rules. Right?
Yes.
So
that match was fun. Yeah, I remember having a lot of fun in that match.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So this is going to be me versus Taylor. This next one, and this is basically Taylor, I believe, jumping around like crazy.
Is this that match? I remember there were one or two matches in particular where he turned the spider monkey way up.
Yeah, I believe this is one of them. It might be the other playlist, but this is. I mean, he's in like his ready stance is like a crouching stance, which is awesome. And this is me just like okay. But the thing is,
Look
he
at
has
that.
such good control. He backs up,
He's
just
very
going
athletic.
through.
His level changes.
Yep.
I can't level change that fast, man. My knees will lock up, and
Right.
all my hair will turn gray, and they'll mail a walker. They'll mail a walker to me from the heavens. You know.
Right.
Taylor's young though.
Right.
He's got his whole life ahead of him.
Yeah. He's. It's very very fun to fight Taylor. Um, and that was him going for a big hit, but I just managed to arm before he spun. So that's the danger of spinning. You actually have to lead with your weapon. Well, otherwise, you're not
Oh
getting that.
wow! Good shot, Alan.
Yeah.
Good shot.
See,
See,
he learned.
you've got the patience
He
turned
learned.
way up on this match, and I think part of it is, maybe I'm wrong, but I think part of it is you're just waiting to see what kind of kooky crap he's gonna try next, which is great.
Correct.
I say that with a complimentary tone,
Yeah.
but it it really is the most fun part of this whole thing is that
Yeah.
like now you can play the Star Wars techniques. You know, now you can look like
Right.
a movie hero. And
Right.
truthfully, I don't think this is the rule set that I would like. Okay, I couldn't exclusively do this. I would have to mix in
Hmm.
the standard style of sparring,
Right.
but to practice your martial arts and your standard style of sparring and then play this game also, man, it's a great way to train.
Hmm.
It's a great way to train.
Yeah.
Because sometimes specifying and honing the rules in a little bit allows you to really work on the technique of other things. Like
Hmm. Absolutely.
if you can somehow get the tempo is not that much slower between the moves here. So if you can get spinning moves in this style, you might one day get one in a normal saber fight of some kind, you know, or
Hmm.
let's say you do kickboxing or something, and like you've practiced a spinning back fist or a spinning back kick before or something like that, but you've never actually
Hmm.
felt like you could do one in a match.
Hmm.
I mean, this kind of rule set, it allows you to hone in techniques like that maybe one day will uncork themselves in a normal situation, which is super cool. Like Taylor's going to have a leg
Right.
up over people with his style because they won't have seen something like it before.
Right.
Or they won't have thought like, you know, that's just some fancy stuff, or that's just something that people do to make themselves feel cool. But in reality, like he's trying like techniques from the kata that we
Yeah.
learned the day before, and like
Right.
you know, it's not just fluff. It's not just some guy with too much coffee in the morning. You know,
Right.
yeah, he was a lot of fun to fight with and to just have around and talk to and get his perspective on things. You know. And
Right.
by the way,
Absolutely.
if you're listening, Taylor, best of luck with all the stuff that you're trying to accomplish with your family.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So who do we have
So
next
this
here?
is you versus Mason. Um,
Yes, this is probably the match where he felt like he needed to apologize to me.
yeah. So this is basically Mason. I believe he does longsword like twice a week, and
Oh,
sabers
okay,
once a week or
okay,
something like
okay.
that. So there is an adjustment period as well for him to go in and do saber stuff
Yes,
instead of
absolutely, absolutely.
longsword stuff. But yeah, but like you can tell he's basically doing a lot of um, downward strikes, like the very much a long sword uh, parry strike, so that he can arm. But yeah, there's certain techniques that they got, and I believe uh, you guys actually go through a couple of rallies in this that were really fun to watch. But again, if you're striking through somebody's parry, you got to
Yeah.
dial it back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's a
and
big
that one was
technique
just
in
like,
longsword style. I mean, to
hmm
to move through, and in Gemso, my root saber style.
hmm
So turning that off, he was trying desperately to awaken those instincts in
yeah,
me.
right. And this is Chad telling him like, hey, don't hold your hands up here.
hmm
Once you're
hmm
armed, you have to attack. You
Yeah,
have to attack. You can't just
yeah.
hang out there.
And he was
And
having a little trouble understanding in the moment what he was talking about. I was as well, because
right,
I would do a similar guard, but I would not
hmm
put it behind my head. So I would just lift it to my
right,
forehead a lot of the time,
right,
and it wouldn't be an
right,
arming action in that case. However,
right.
I was after he kind of got on Mason a little bit about it, because Mason would do it
hmm
behind his forehead. Uh, I was
Yeah.
really policing myself. You see it right there.
Yep.
It's in front of my forehead, but I'm trying not to appear as though I'm arming. And then
Right.
after he said that, I was really, really trying not to appear as though I was arming.
Right.
Yeah, it's all intricacies, it's all nuance, and it all has to be done in microseconds.
Right. And it is up to the judging and the roughing as well to
Yes.
keep the fighters honest
Oh, I like that
with not
move.
just each other. Yeah, not just each other, but also for anybody watching, you want to see a clean strike. You want to see, you don't want to see doubles. You want to see a
Yes.
fun match to watch, and not just a clack reset, clack reset, clack reset. You know, so very very much a lot of fun to be had with this rule set because of just the once you like I said, once you understand the rules of the rule set, it's so much easier to appreciate it,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, I think
So,
that's true of many things in life, right? Like if you just take a second to try and understand, right?
hmm
But easier said than done all the time.
right.
But with martial arts, I think martial artists tend to, okay, maybe not. Maybe there are a fair amount of closed-minded ones, but all the ones we worked with, all the ones we tend to surround ourselves with, tend to be pretty open-minded
Yep.
and accepting and willing to adjust, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like just
Right.
because Joe does taekwondo and Ken does ameridote, right? Like doesn't
hmm
mean that we can't take class at the other one's school or have a seminar where we're both trying the same techniques. Like I remember one time I went to this is Kayla and Frank, by the way, and Kayla and Frank are from what I gather, if people want to see fireworks on a Saturday afternoon, Kayla and Frank should start fighting.
hmm Right.
Both highly competitive, and you can tell Kayla does not like to lose to Frank, but probably loses to Frank. I don't say this in a bad way. Probably does a fair amount because Frank is the most experienced one there, and
Sure.
man, she hates it. You could tell she just loathes it.
Well, this is what happens when you have certain sparring partners, right? When you
Yeah,
spar the same person over and over again, you're like, I fell for that
yeah.
thing you do again.
Well,
It's one of those things.
that's kind of what I was getting at with the seminar. Is I went to one seminar where a bunch of us from the Kempo school were there. It was at a Tang Sudo school where they did a couple different Korean arts, and there was a wushu school in attendance as well, and we were all doing like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu combination.
hmm
So like with like a little bit of judo thrown in. So like obviously you all know that mixing the saber style is something we're a fan of, but there was a whole reason I was getting into that. But you spar with the same people all the time. It's nice to be able to branch out and spar with people of a different style, but then you also find out, like we did and continue to do, that it's all just the same thing anyway, right? A punch is still a punch, kick is still a
Hmm.
kick. We say this a lot, but you have to disseminate in order to reassemble in the way that makes sense. Um, I just love the competition between these two. Like the air is thick with competitiveness when these two are fighting.
Right? And you can see that Frank has
Oh,
done some of those quick, like he does a step behind, does a spin, but Kayla was ready for it. She's like, I've seen that one
oh,
before. Yeah,
look at her, she's just going for him, man. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Like that combo there, man. She does not give him any ground, man. Aggressive as hell when
yeah,
he's in the ring with her.
yeah. Tie game until that very last hit, right? It was anybody's game,
Oh,
which was awesome.
no way she was sleeping after that one. She had to have another match after that. I'm sure. Uh,
Sure.
I think with the way that she just like goes right after him, that's the kind of thing you can't really teach somebody that. That's kind of an instinct that they have to already have,
Right.
to just go for it. All right, who we got here?
This is the last fight of the day. Where
Oh,
Taylor's just throwing
this is the only
everything but the kitchen
this is the only fight
sink
I
at
won
you.
that day, and I think I won by time. Uh, Man, he uncorked all the freaking Roman candles and whiz bangers and poop poppers. And I don't even know what the hell happened there. Somebody got
He hit him in
something.
the hand. Yeah. It
Chad
was,
seems confused too.
yeah. Yeah.
I got a point. Okay.
Quick shot.
Oh
Yeah.
man. Yeah, I immediately recognized that I was defending myself.
Yep. You had to basically go on the defensive here. Oh, and there was the power warning. Um, it's like, rein it in, guys. Rein it in.
And again, like I didn't feel I was hitting him hard. However,
Yeah.
he's coming at me with such, I don't want to say this mean, fury, with such fury that like you do have to sort of match it at a certain degree or you're going to get whacked, right? Like,
Right.
but then I'm thankful for those power warnings because it forces both of us to just go back to zero,
Yeah.
because if I'm feeling like the intensity is being brought to me and that I'm just trying to match a level, then that allows me to not have to match that level anymore, right? So
Correct.
I like those power warnings, even if I don't feel that I am doing anything wrong. It's worth
Right.
giving me the reminder. Man, I felt
Right.
so dope about that freaking spin move too, and then it didn't land. Got another point there.
Um,
Oh man, he made me work for this victory.
yeah.
Oh, the
There's a
salvo.
lot of
Oh,
yeah.
look at me. Look at how depressed I am.
Just get going in, picking your spot, right? Picking your spot.
Yep. Yep. It was definitely a patience game there because you could tell I kind of wanted to strike back, but I was kind of, I don't know what to
Mhm.
do about this.
Right. Right.
Taylor made
So
the
think
old guy work,
about
man, to
being
his credit. Made the old guy work.
part about being the ref too is like in that specific uh, angle. There's certain angles that you can't really see, so you actually have to work your way around. And time.
Oh, look at me. I still think I'm going to get struck. Yeah, I mean, like I could tell just based on my body language that like I was there was a moment where I was like, okay, let's fight. And then it was like, oh crap, I'm fighting. And then like really fighting.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, if we're gonna have a quote unquote real fight, let me win.
Sure.
I could tell it in my body language. However, I don't feel like that often, and I didn't feel like that almost the whole. I think maybe to my detriment, I have. By the way, everybody, the playlist is over. So if you're wondering, but I don't usually have that competitive nature to say like if I want to win, it generally feels like a matter of life and death for me, right?
Sure.
Like I'm generally defending something for real. But like if it's just me
Sure.
sparring, like I don't care about winning at all. I just want to play and I want to see what happens. And that's why the Cuban boxing team's so amazing. They play and they dance, right? But
Right.
this rule set makes it so that play is the only vehicle to success. If you start taking things too seriously, you're probably going to start getting hit by silly strikes like spinning moves and stuff like that because there's just no capacity to take yourself too seriously when I don't know, I guess when showmanship is so innate in the rule set. Like
Right.
you're kind of forced to have fun. If you don't have
Right.
fun, you're kind of missing the whole thing. Like if it's just about
Right.
who can hit each other first. By the way, you all know like we're both big fans of that style. We both do that style. But it's just refreshing once in a while to change it up and do something that forces you to think about it differently and employ some techniques that like oh, this will never work on the streets. Yeah, but this isn't the streets, man. This is the streets of Coruscant, maybe, streets of Nar Shaddaa, like in my mind, but not for real. There's no stakes on
Right.
the line here. Now, eventually, when we start talking international competition and even national competition, which we've had and will have again in January here, but sure, yeah, there's a level of seriousness that you want to have if you want to achieve. But
Right.
but to just learn and practice and accomplish
Right.
some progress, man, I think like I said, not the only way, but definitely something you should add into your mix if you haven't yet. And talk to Darth Anonymous about how you can potentially get certified as well. I know that he's looking to do more events like this, and obviously, as certified coaches and combatants and judges, there's a good chance that more, in future workshops, will be in attendance for those as well. So I'm pretty interested. I would love to try and go to the Capital Clash this year, but my wife will be just days almost away from having our fourth kid, so that's not going to happen. But it is happening in January, so if you're in the Washington D.C. area, keep your eyes peeled for the Capital Clash, which is, I believe, a USA fencing event,
Correct.
which
It
will
was
have the
their
light
youth
fencing
tournament event.
component this year.
Hmm.
And this will be the second year of that for light fencing. So yeah, and you said it's a youth. Is it a youth qualifying tournament? I believe. I don't know. It may be. I know we kind of dabbled on that topic and maybe a little off when I say that. So I don't want to speak out of turn, but yeah. And if you're into regular just fencing, or maybe you're not into any of it at all, but you'd like to kind of see what it's all about, see what a tournament looks like, go check it out. Go be a spectator. Oh, and if you're a spectator, don't talk. Don't talk to the judges. Don't talk at people. Don't heckle anybody. This is not Happy Gilmore. You just
Right.
go and enjoy yourself and be respectful and quietly observe and enjoy. And then ask questions, be a sponge, as we say. And any martial arts tournament, I encourage people to go check them out. I have a private student right now who'd really like to get involved in her first martial arts tournament of some kind, kickboxing of some kind, and she's in her early 30s. So no real desire to like be the next Ultimate Fighter or anything, but would really like to itch her or scratch her competitive itch a little. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take her to a tournament. Maybe compete in one myself, but one where she doesn't have to compete right out of the gate. She can just go and watch the first time and kind of get a gauge for what you can expect. Because the neat thing about this light fencing, which you won't see on any of these videos this time, but hopefully in the near future, is there's a forms competition element to this all, and there's room for expansion on the number of, and types of divisions and things. And as SMAF, we've already got this type of thing as well. We've got kata rules and we've got blade work rules and things that some of it's experimental, some of it we've used before, but it's all integrating and it's all shareable and it's all stuff that we've all decided is good for the community and is good for each other. So, yeah, for me, Alan, I think the biggest eye-opening thing about this whole weekend and the fights was just to maintain my sense of open-mindedness, to maintain my sense of accepting and willingness to try versions of things that I may have experienced before and versions of things that I haven't yet experienced. So, like sometimes as we get older, we get stuck in our ways. We know that, but we also allow ourselves to get stuck in our ways. So for me, it was an exercise in exercising adaptability and open-mindedness. So I really appreciated that. That was kind of an unintended consequence that really became the most consequential thing that I got out of the whole weekend. That was a word salad. Yeah. I know it was a word salad. But, yeah. So that was a lot of fun. We do have another whole playlist with the next day, and that whole playlist, almost all of the fights are refereed by me and Alan. Mm-hmm. So in that playlist, I think you and I fought each other once. Yeah. And then every other fight we refereed or judged. And we did that because we had to leave the workshop a little early that day. So Chad was generous enough to allow us to spend several hours doing the bulk of the refereeing and stuff, which is the most important job on the floor.
Right. Absolutely.
So, yeah, in order to get certified, we had to really drill and kudos to him for he's a good teacher, man. I think I said that to you while we were driving, but yeah, I was impressed. I mean, obviously he's been teaching martial arts a long time, but he's a good teacher. So absolutely. I would say anybody who has the opportunity to get in contact with Terra Prime, hopefully in person, if you're in the Ann Arbor, Michigan area, and you can make it to a class at the Liberty Athletic Club on a Saturday, I would go do it. There you go, anonymous free plug for you, and I hope somebody shows up as a result. Also, if you're in Michigan and you're listening to this show, why don't you send me an email? I'm not that far. We should hook up and do some Saber training. So anyway, Saber MA Outreach at gmail.com. That's me. Master Venable at phoenixsaber.com. That's him. Go to Terra Prime. I believe it's TerraPrimeLightArmory.com, and you will see all of the USA light fencing stuff there. But if you type in USA light fencing, USA one word, light fencing one word, and you type in Terra Prime on Google, USA light fencing Terra Prime, you'll probably find anything you need to find. Also, you're already looking at this playlist. I will link the USA light fencing page from their website in this show description, in any of the YouTube stuff that I do with this show. And I will link the Terra Prime YouTube page as well, because you will see more light fencing from their classes. Kayla and Frank are on there. Kevin's on there. And you'll get to see all of the content that Darth Anonymous has been able to share with the community for over a decade now. Yeah, the work he's done has been. I've said the word generous about him 2 or 3 times now. That's the best word for it. He's very generous with his time, with his knowledge, with his effort, and with his compassion and his desire to see people succeed. So thank you
Absolutely.
from us to you, Chad, if you're hopefully listening. Thank you to your students. Hopefully all you guys are listening. Kayla, Frank, Kevin, Mason, Taylor, tell me, Alan. Who else am I forgetting?
Kayla?
Did I say Kayla? I don't remember.
Frank, Kayla, Mason, Taylor, James,
James.
right, and
Okay.
Kevin.
So,
or did I say Kevin already? Jeez.
yeah,
I'm horrible at this,
and guys,
too.
we love you. We love you. We spent a whopping 2 days with you, but we love you.
Yeah.
And yeah, so check them out. Check out Terra Prime. Check out sabermartialarts.life. Check us out on patreon.com/sabermartialarts. Instagram at SMA Foundation. And all the stuffs, all the things. Subscribe, share it with friends, bring it to the dojo and play it over the loudspeaker. We love you guys, and we'll see you next time for the next playlist of USA Light Fencing. Until then, bring your own saber.
This party's over.